Hello, colleagues, and welcome to part two with Grant Leboff, who's the chief exec and founder of Sticky Marketing. You will recall from the first episode that we were talking to Grant in the early stages of the COVID lockdown, and now we're a little bit further down the path. So we thought it would be worth revisiting this because he referred to a lot of his own personal circumstances where this was giving him a chance to review the whole sticky marketing business. So I just wondered, Grant, thanks very much for coming back, sir. And you mentioned in part one that you were undertaking a forensic analysis of your own business because this is what the opportunity that COVID had presented to you. So would you be able to bring viewers just a little bit up to date with how that has gone?
Yes, I think it's really interesting. Thanks for the question, Ian. So first of all, the forensic analysis of the business in some ways hasn't gone the way I wanted it to go because I've been so busy that I haven't had a chance to fully, finish that exercise. But having said that, because it's been very front of mind the whole time, the real world experience of working with customers now in this kind of COVID-19 world and slightly easing out of lockdown as well has, show me some things which will feed back into the strategic analysis. So I think the biggest takeaway for me, which I think will be applicable to many of your customers, is the delivery mechanism changes the value proposition. And what I mean by that is, and let me give you a real example of this. So I do a lot of consultancy, strategic consultancy work with my customers. And that strategic consultancy work typically meant me going to the premises of the customer. So you go to the premises of the customer. So I'm flying to America to work with that customer. Clearly, because they've got the strategic leaders of their business all flying into their head office, and I'm flying in from the UK into their head office, time is precious. So everybody is, doing that strategic work in a day or a couple of days or 3 days or whatever, but it's intense. And then everybody goes home. When you're suddenly doing this online over Zoom or Teams or whatever platform you're using, suddenly people can be dialing in from wherever they are, whether in New York or California or Chicago or Boston, it doesn't matter, and me in London. And therefore we can actually dial in for 3 hours, leave, take some time to reflect and come back. So the value proposition and the delivery mechanism actually changes the way that you're doing things. And I'm wondering, the rhetorical question, obviously I'd be saying to your viewers is, have you sort of looked at your value proposition and thought about the delivery mechanism to your customers, and how does that affect the value proposition, and what new opportunities does that provide you for deeper engagement, for other services? Because I think there are huge opportunities for people out there. And I must admit, I'm getting quite excited by some of the things that are going on in my own business and with my clients' businesses as well, that allows you to extend that engagement, bolt on new services and new value, and really explore new avenues.
So, we've talked previously about sort of, digital has been vital in helping us manage through lockdown. But now as we emerge from that, where do you see the balance being struck from a customer's perspective between, doing things digitally, but those areas where actually they're best done face to face?
Yes. So again, for me, it's been a big learning, and I no doubt many of your, and I'm very digital savvy, by the way. I've always been online for years, but it's been a real learning, and I think that I would say that it's about outcomes. So for me, it's about what works better in a digital environment. And the example I just gave you of the consultancy, for me now, that actually works better in a digital environment because it gives us flexibility that we just don't have when we're all traveling. When everybody's traveling to a destination from all different parts of a country or the globe, then you're very limited on time because everybody needs to get it done and get back to where they need to be. Whereas once you do it online, you've got tremendous flexibility with interactions and engagement. So I think people need to look at outputs and say, what outputs are best delivered in a digital environment? What does digital enable us to do, which we can't do offline? But then there are going to be other occasions when actually that online activity, that offline activity, so is better. In other words, it's more effective to be face to face and be in the room. And I actually think we've got to be very careful not to think about it in binary terms. So I think the blended approach is going to be, for many organizations, the right approach. It's a little bit like that whole conversation that many people are having now, work from home or work in the office. Well, my immediate reaction would be neither. In other words, working from home all the time is probably not the right solution for the majority of people. But going to the office every single day, I think a lot of people have discovered during COVID is not necessary either. And therefore it's the blended. When do we need to be together as a team in the office? When actually does it work perfectly well for everybody to be at home? And what does that solution look like for our organization and for our customer delivery and all of those different things? So for me, it's blended. And the example I always use for people, and it's an easy example, I know, but I think it paints the picture in people's mind very nicely, is click and collect. Click and collect gives you the opportunity of shopping online in the comfort of your own home, without the rush and the hustle and bustle and fighting with other people and being there at busy times and doing things in your leisure. But the collect means I don't have to wait at home for a delivery driver. I don't have to guarantee I'm going to be in, and I'm very happy to swing by the supermarket and pick it up myself. So I think click and collect is a lovely example of a blended solution. And I think for many businesses out there, those businesses that were majority offline, there are some online opportunities there, but I would also say vice versa. Those online businesses, perhaps there's an opportunity to blend things with offline as well. So I think everybody's got some new opportunities now.
So you raised the issue of customers there, and for those organisations who provide service, whichever sector they work in, do you think it's got harder or easier to actually find out what customers now expect of us?
Gosh, that's a really good question, Ian. So I would say that's in two parts. So I would say that in some ways it's got harder at the moment. And the reason why I think it's hard specifically right now is because the world has changed a lot in the last few months. So, I don't, how do I know exactly what my customers are thinking right now? How do I know how COVID has affected their particular business and their particular family situation and other things? So this current situation that we're in has impacted an awful lot of businesses in ways which you don't fully understand as an outsider. Of course, the solution is very easy. Go and talk to your customers. Make sure you're close to them. Stay in contact. Have those conversations. So I think that my short-term answer to you, because it's a great question, is that it's harder right now only because I think we're in some very fluid and changing times. And these are moving feasts as well. In lockdown, businesses were affected in one way, of course, in different sectors in different ways. As we're easing out of lockdown, that's affecting businesses in different ways. And when we get completely out of lockdown, and who knows when that is, and business returns to some level of normalcy, that will affect different businesses in different ways again. And if you take something like the event sector, that could take another 12 months to recover. Whereas, there are businesses that are recovering much quicker. And some online businesses that haven't been affected at all or have seen an increase in demand. So I think that the short-term answer is it's harder to make sense of everything that's going on because it's so fluid. And therefore, stay close to your customers, stay in contact with them, have those conversations, have that engagement so you've got that understanding. So I think that longer term, these tools and this openness to using these tools actually makes engagement easier and understanding our customers easier. But I do think, we have to be mindful of the short term, and the fluidity of the situation we're in means that you've got to be very careful not to lose the understanding of your customer base right now.
And one final sort of discussion point, really, because it's something I've picked up in the last sort of few weeks. I wonder whether this is sort of part of what comes out of COVID, that actually organisations who provide service need to stop worrying about and stop measuring customer satisfaction, and actually now need to start understanding what their customers' expectations are and then measure their performance against expectations. Do you have a view on that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So funnily enough, I've never been a fan of customer satisfaction. because I think that satisfaction is kind of we all think we know what it means, but it means quite different things to different people. So I've been always a fan of having definite KPIs. So specific KPIs, promises to customers that we make and that we measure against our ability to deliver on those promises. So I think that's true. I think that's always been true. Where I think that the other part of this is that you should be measuring engagement as well. And I've always been a big fan of measuring engagement with customers, because I think satisfied customers, happy customers are normally engaged customers. And you can get engagement in many, many different ways, whether it's interacting with your content online, whether it's that personal deliverables, whether it's email interaction, phone interaction, even if it's them visiting your website, if it's a remote service or product offering. I think measuring that level of engagement is quite important. And actually, when you measure engagement, you can often spot dissatisfaction early on before it gets too bad and suddenly you get that horrible email saying we're not using you anymore. Because actually you can measure the interactions that that customer is having with your business, and you can start to see when they tail off. And then it's not difficult to send an email or have a phone call or whatever it is, whatever mechanism it is, to say, oh, we've noticed you've been, using us less. Is there anything we can do? Is there anything we're doing wrong? Is there anything we can do better, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that measuring against definitive KPIs and then measuring customer engagement is very important. And one final add I'd say, which is a juncture to your question, it's not a specific answer, is one of the things that businesses sometimes get sort of bamboozled with, and I just see as a huge opportunity, is the flexibility of working. Because one of the things that businesses are struggling with, certainly in my experience and my customers, is this 24/7 environment where we're always on. Where it might be 3 o'clock in the morning, but I've just thought of something, so I want an answer now, and I'm WhatsApping or I'm emailing or I'm interacting with the website and I want an answer. And one of the things that I think is incredible, and I've had this actually with a service provider who I can't name, but we've actually changed what they're doing, is that we have employees that actually get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and are quite happy to start work at 5:30. It's a walk from their bedroom to their other bedroom. And they're happy to work till 1:30 or 2 o'clock and then sign off for the day and spend the afternoon in the pub because that's what they want to do, right? We've got other employees that don't really want to get up till 11 o'clock in the morning and don't want to start work till lunchtime, but they're happy to work till 9 or 10 at night. Now, of course, businesses have tended to be very inflexible with that and said, you've got to be in 9 till 5, or if we're very flexible, between the hours of 8 and 6 or whatever. Suddenly, if you're happy that you've got business person employee A who's happy to get up at 5:30 and work till 1:30, and you've got business employee B that doesn't even want to start till 2 o'clock, but happy to work till 10 o'clock at night, think about the customer coverage that gives you. And I think this flexibility is really exciting in terms of customer satisfaction, customer experience. And I think companies should be embracing it, not worrying about it.
Well, Grant, that's a great way to finish part 2 of our chat there. It's great to hear everything is going so well for the business now. So thank you for updating us on that and your insights into some of the opportunities around sort of customer experience and service in the future. So all the best for the future, sir. And I do look forward to catching up with you in person at some point.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ian. Thank you.